everyone. My name is Phidelia Johnson. I'm the Executive Human Capital Management Strategist with Redefine HR, a boutique HR consulting firm based in New Jersey and New York. Our discussion for today is based on learning and development or training and development. I will be using those two words interchangeably, so please bear with me, but they do mean the same thing. Lifelong learning is essential for individuals at all levels to remain relevant in today's fast-paced environment. Faced with constant challenges, changing technologies, and a fluid environment, employees especially must continue to broaden their perspective and strive for continual professional development if they intend to be promoted in the workplace. We also do know that employees are our greatest assets. So as HR practitioners, what are we doing in our workplace to make ensure that our employees are indeed feeling like they are truly our greatest assets? Peter Drucker once said, "The greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, it is to act with yesterday's logic." As HR practitioners, we always want to evaluate the development opportunities that we provide. As human beings, we have been learning informally since the day we were born. Whether it be in the time you learn to walk, to ride a bike, or when you listen to your mom, all of these were all instances of learning something in an informal way. This brings me to a personal event that occurred a few years ago. At that time, I had my 2-year-old at a doctor's office. 5 minutes into our wait, my 2-year-old got up and started walking around the waiting area. And as she started walking around it, she started pointing to things that she can find as she walked around. So she started with a chair. And she asked me, "What is this?" I said, "Chair." She went on to say, "What is this?" I said, "Door." "What is this?" I said, "Cup." So after 5 minutes into it, I was tired. But my daughter would not let me sit down and relax. She was curious. So down the road, 3 years later, fast forward 3 years later, I was in a training class and training some people to be trainers. And as I was in the class, I just had a flashback on the moment of my 2-year-old asking me all these questions. And I was so much busy with life. I just wanted a private time for myself that I didn't actually engage in that learning process. What an opportunity that I missed, because what I should have done, I encourage HR practitioners and learning and development practitioners to do is that we should engage employees once we roll out a training program. We should follow up, because we all know that whatever doesn't get measured doesn't happen. I didn't measure the learning that was going on with her curiosity. I should have gone back when I asked her to sit down. I should have spent a few minutes with her and asked her, "What is this?" Now, play role reversal with her and now be the one asking her questions to make sure that the information that I gave her actually registered with her. And this is one of the things that make me realize that a lot of us are doing training wrong. We are so eager and so quick to, send employees out there for training programs, but we don't follow up to make sure that the training is being learned and is being transferred into the workplace. Because what is the essence of organizations spending over $200 billion a year in training workers? And this goes back to the 1800s when training and development actually started. And I chuckle whenever I had to tell the history of training and development. I chuckle because, as a matter of fact, since the inception of life on earth, training and development has always been in motion. As human beings, we go through training and development. When you are a baby, you learn how to, crawl before you walk. It's all learning and development. So whenever we go back and academically put a time frame on learning and development, I find that a little bit of a disingenuous, because I believe that human beings have been learning all their life on earth. But I'll go to the academic timetable for when learning and development actually became part and parcel of the workplace. So the actual learning and development calendar starts from the 1800s, when workers started with apprenticeship, when learning and development actually started. And I will fast forward over into the 1950s. The 1950s is when we experienced the World Wars. After the World Wars, a lot of the military personnel that were returning, the veterans that were coming back, did not have skills that can be transferred into the workplace. So because of that, it caused companies to want a way to train people efficiently and reduce expense while still getting high instructional value. Individualized instructions became permanent, which replaced teachers with materials that broke the learning into small steps with an activity afterwards to check the comprehension level of the employees that were being trained. In 1954, we have the Daniel Kirkpatrick's theory, first outlined the 4 levels of learning evaluation, giving learning and development professionals one of the first ways to evaluate the training programs that they offered. And then in 1956, Benjamin Bloom led a committee in the publication of the Taxonomy of Educational Objectives, which helped trainers better match the information to instructional methods. So we always call the Bloom Taxonomy. In 1950s and 1960s, instructional systems design was born from a desire to bring various pieces of the instructional process into an effective system. As computers progress in the 1960s, virtual reality begins to develop, although it wouldn't see widespread interest for many decades. So we go into the 1960s, the first computer assistant instructions once they started with computers. So in 1961, is when McDonald's found the Hamburger University. McDonald's was the first corporate company to form its first corporate university. In 1962, the concept of instructional design was first articulated by Robert Glasser. Training Magazine begins publication in 1970. Malcolm Knowles originates the term informal learning. In 1983, Howard Gardner introduces the theory of multiple intelligence. In 1984 was where the ADDIE model evolves and becomes more flexible and less linear. I'll fast forward and jump into the early 2000s. That's when the mobile learning enters the training lexicon at the beginning of the new century. But mobile learning doesn't really start gaining traction until the explosion of personal smartphones in the mid to late 2000s. In addition, chunking gets rebranded as micro learning. In 2002, Nick Perlin coins the term gamification. Although people have been using gaming elements in many applications for 2 centuries. 2008, MOOCs start seeing use in distance education, and the training industry isn't far behind. Our present time, where the success of personal social networking sites catches the attention of training departments, and the concepts of social learning takes on a new dimension. According to popular belief, we as humans learn formally and informally at a rate of 70, 20, and 10. 70% of our learning is work-related. Learning occurs informally. 20% through coaching and 10% formally. 20% of learning can be placed under more social learning opportunities. This involves less structured but more experiential learning through having coaching and mentoring opportunities. What leaves the whopping 70% of time left for more learning by doing? So what is informal learning? Informal learning is what all of your staff do as well. But how can you harness the power it has within your organization and find out with this special? We must remember that effective learning and development is all about implementing and embedding the learning back into the workplace. If we send employees out for training programs and they come back and we don't put measures in place for the employees to implement that which they learn, we are wasting money. We are wasting our organization's money. We are wasting employees' time. When it comes to learning and development, it comes down to common sense. If we are going to put an employee on a learning and development program, we have to sit down and talk to that particular employee and find out what the employee finds valuable. The only effective way to ensure that our training program is indeed effective is to make sure that we include our stakeholders, we include our employees into the decision-making process. For example, some of us in the learning and development field, we know that we hire men for their potential and we hire women for their expertise. So when we are rolling learning and development program in the workplace, and we roll out a blanket learning and development program for everybody, including male and female, we are doing a great disservice to the female employees, because most of the time we are bringing female employees on board in our organizations at 90% proficiency for the position that we are putting them in. And we are bringing male candidates into our organization with 55% proficiency of the role that we are putting them in. So in this way, this bias is already embedded in our recruiting process. So we bring male candidates into the workplace. They are beaming with energy because they know that they are not proficient. They know that they need to catch up. And yet we are bringing female employees into the workplace, and they have 90, sometimes 95%, sometimes 98%, because we all know that female employees will never apply for a job until they feel like they can do everything that is posted on that job description. I will caution HR practitioners, we need to be careful during the hiring process. We need to pay attention during the sourcing and recruiting process to make sure that we are not putting women in this high pedestal that they had to come in at, so that when they come into the organization, they don't have that level of curiosity, like the story I share about my daughter, because they've been there, done that. And this is why a lot of learning and development professionals are shooting themselves in the foot, because we are not giving employees what they need to succeed in the workplace. We are rolling out learning and development programs as a blanket program for everybody. Take this from me. It will change the trajectory of your learning and development program moving forward. Meet with your stakeholders, sit down with them, ask them what are some of the skill gaps that they have, and you hear what they had to say. Make note of it, and then you come back and compare it to the organization mission and vision, and make sure that that skill gap is actually something that is going to be aligned to with the organization mission and organization vision and mission moving forward. Remember that learning and development, or training and development, can take place in a variety of forms. Here are some few ideas to get you started. 360-degree feedback. A common method used by many organizations to help employees identify strengths and developmental needs. I need you to make sure that if you have an employee that has a great potential, for example, you want to put them on a succession plan, I encourage you to offer that 360-degree review for any employee that you want to put them on a succession plan. Also, formal training. Organizations need to offer formal training at this widespread level of the organization. Organizations need to offer formal training to every employee in the organization. Also, mentoring and coaching in the workplace. As practitioners, we can champion in the workplace and encourage our senior leaders to invest in mentoring and coaching. Also, mobility assignments. These assignments include details or special or short-term assignments, transfers, cross-trainings, projects. These are all things that sometimes involves employees going on sabbaticals. The onboarding process, it never ends from the time the employee walks in to the time the employee leaves. We as leaders have to ensure that we are giving employees all that they need to make them successful in their role. So I encourage you to please do that to get the accurate information to be able to help the employees in the workplace, so that your training and development program can be as effective as it can be. One thing I also want to share is that learning shared is learning gained. We have to make sure that we are pairing employees in the workplace so that they can collaborate on learning initiatives, because when you learn with somebody, you gain much, much better knowledge. The retention of the knowledge is much higher than when somebody is learning by themselves. What is the one thing that can keep employees in the organization engaged is when leaders actually invest in employees' development. Ironically, helping employees to develop their skills actually improves their retention level in the organization, and which in turn becomes a win-win situation for the organization. Because if employees are growing, the organization is probably growing too, and vice versa. Human capital development is an avenue through which you can keep employees engaged at work to prevent boredom from the mundane work structures that we all encounter in our day-to-day responsibility at the workplace. Employee development also has a potential to increase employee productivity levels as well. Employees must also ensure that we are partnering with employees to implement the development policies that we are putting in place. Because writing a policy and having it in a binder in an office doesn't transfer to employees actually acquiring the skills necessary. Skills development training takes place in employees' day-to-day interactions at the workplace. But for successful organizations that seek to get the best resource in terms of their human capital, this is not a factor to dwell on much, because while we are avoiding to train employees for fear that the employee might leave, you only retain a poorly skilled employee, which will affect efficiency and output in terms of return on the business investment. So I ask that, are we all of the strong opinion that even if the business changes, human capital will still remain relevant, enable us to push beyond threats to break boundaries for business growth? Organizations must partner with their employees to make sure that they're actually getting the training that employees actually find effective for them to do their job and do their job very well. To create an effective learning and development programs in your organizations, I advise that you please ensure that you identify training needs, set benchmarks and goals, and provide your human capital with the tools and resources to support immediate implementation of the new skills that they are going to acquire through your new training program. At the end of the day, look for performance measures through everything that the employees are going to be doing. Look for performance measures so you can measure the training needs as well. One of the other tips that I encourage leaders to do is to also do a training need analysis to ensure that the training that you're about to roll out is something that is going to be beneficial to the employees and also going to be beneficial to the organizations. A successful training needs analysis will identify those who need training and what kind of training is needed. It is counterproductive to offer training to individuals who do not need it or to offer the wrong kind of training. A training needs analysis helps to put the training resources to good use. Let's face it, being sent to a training program or for a training that you don't need is one of the most painful and waste of time that any of us can attest to. Employees do get bored out of their mind when they are overqualified in positions. So let us make sure that we are making sure that employees do have room for growth in the positions that we are putting them in. To have an effective learning and development training program, make sure that you are building excitement in the workplace, create buy-in, and generate positive buzz in the organization. In professional speak, we all are aware that if you are not learning, you are not growing. It is true. Standing still is falling behind. If employees aren't developing and advancing in their careers, they are doing themselves a professional injustice, and we all know it as leaders. Talented employees always have options. They know that too, and they will leave organizations if they feel that they are not being developed in their roles that they are in. To prevent the best employees from leaving our organizations, we have to invest in their learning and development. And even if there's no money for learning and development initiatives, I encourage leaders to look at opportunities where there is career enrichment is put in place to create that mandatory lateral career opportunities so that employees can have ways to reskill and scale up so that they will be prepared for opportunities as it comes available as well. Though everyone in your organization have different needs during training and development initiative, make sure that you are telling employees why that training is being rolled out, why that training is important. It's very important for you to pay attention also to employees as you are offering training. Training without motivating employees to take those training seriously is a waste of time. It's futile as a trainer. You have to be assured that you don't say things that employees can go out there and verify. You don't say things that are not true, because right now, because of the internet, when you become a trainer or you're a facilitator or an HR practitioner and you're training somebody, you have to make sure that you do your due diligence. You have to make sure that you are double, triple checking your information. Don't go to one source. There's a lot of information on the World Wide Web that are not factual. Don't go into one source, but please go to multiple sources and validate the information that you have. And that's why, to me, it's poignant and it's so important that our training and development initiatives in the workplace, is applied to the common sense mantra that I have established for myself that I use in training employees. Talk to employees, ask them why, ask them where they feel they need training, and make sure that you incorporate their input into the training program. So at the end of the day, once you are incorporating employees' feedback into the training program, you won't run into the process of having that problem where employees might call you out, because depending on the level of employees that you are offering training to, some of them will call you out that the information that you are giving them is actually incorrect. And that is the worst thing that can happen to a facilitator or who gives out the wrong information to their employee. Modern training consists of flexible, dynamic groups of people doing a myriad of things, with groups changing from task to task, and powers of reflection and self-direction are must-have qualities for learners. The first thing you have to do, in Japanese training facility or in a training classroom is, most of the time, they rearrange all the chairs and the tables from straight rows of individual desks into islands fit for collaboration and sharing. And they do this to make sure that employees are actually engaging during the training facility. So how we set up training for participants is also very important. For learners to actually engage in the training and development program, make sure that you are seating them in such a way, especially in classroom settings, you are seating them in such a way that they can actually grasp the information that is being passed down to them. Because the worst thing you can do as a facilitator is to, bring a bunch of people into a training room and not have them have the opportunity to engage, and not have them have the opportunity to actually leave from the training program having learned something valuable that they can then take to the workplace. It's vitally important as a trainer to make sure that whatever training you decide to do, you are doing it and doing it very well. Emotional intelligence also play a part in our training and development. Also, strategic learning design is also one of the tools that are very important. Also, the kinds of coaching. Coaching plays a role in learning and development. I cannot overemphasize coaching in learning and development. Coaching is very important. Performance coaching, assessment coaching, and also strategic thinking coaching. These are all important tools for you to roll out, and some of this you can do in the workplace or have senior leaders do in the workplace for employees without having to actually go out there and spend a lot of money. If training budgets have been cut, and we all know that a lot of training budgets around the globe has been cut substantially since the economy tanked in 2008, 2009. A lot of organizations having beefed out their training budget since they made those drastic cuts in 2008 and 2009. So some of us will have to be creative in ensuring that we actually engage in our employees, and employees are actually learning in the workplace. It's really important for us to ensure that our employees are acquiring the skills and the knowledge that they need in the workplace, because without that, we are going to lose our employees. We are going to lose them to employers that offer them that. Having a good learning and development training in your organization reduces turnover, increases productivity, teamwork, collaboration, and employee loyalty. But why are we not articulating that message better to our sweet executives? Why is learning and development become so much of a tussle whenever we need funds to ensure that we are offering employees training? My gift to you today is that if you are in a learning and development or training and development field or HR practitioner, you need to engage on your own learning and development journey. You have to embrace new information so that you can come to the table with new information to your leaders, so that your employees can also gain that new information or new skills that you are gaining. You cannot rely on just PowerPoint presentation. You have to go out there. You got to get new information. You have to make the information relevant to your organization. You have to make the information relevant to your geographical location. You have to make the information relevant to your industry, because there's a lot of information out there. And so copy and pasting learning and development training program or initiative doesn't work. It's not effective. It tarnishes your reputation as a trainer. It tarnishes your reputation as a human resources practitioner. So I encourage you, speak to the people in your organization. Speak to the employees that you want to train. Go into your personnel files. Look at their reviews. And even if you are new in a workplace, go back to 3 years to give me a better picture of where the employee skill gaps is and what I can do to fill in the skill gaps. Because at the end of the day, as HR professionals, we are the ones that bring employees in. We are the front of the company. We bring talent into our organization. We are their first contact. And that's why learning and development end up becoming a subset of the HR function. We are the go-to people for employees in the workplace. So it's important that as employees are talking to us, we are the gatekeepers of holding on to their performance. We know things that the C-suite executives will not know. So it's important that as you have all that information, whatever information is missing, you take it upon yourself to go out there and get that information to make sure that your training and development initiative is being rolled out or is in process now, is being effective and is actually producing the results that you desire. Make it work, make it make sense for your employees. And at the end of the day, you are going to reap the benefits of it. Because when employees are equipped with all the knowledge that they need and even exceeded the knowledge that they need for the workplace, they become innovative and they come up with ideas that generally will not come up when they are caught up in the day-to-day work process. So thank you. It has truly been a pleasure to present this learning and development session with the entire HR network members. And especially, I'll be remiss if I don't say thank you to Cynthia and the rest of the administrative staff. Thank you. I am truly grateful.